In 2012, a groundbreaking genetic study turned our understanding of human history upside down. Scientists examining Ethiopian DNA uncovered something unexpected, evidence that, while much of Africa remained relatively isolated, Ethiopia acted as a genetic crossroads. Here, populations separated by thousands of miles and millennia intersected, leaving traces of encounters that should have been impossible. But the most astonishing revelation wasn't just what they found, it was what had been hiding in plain sight all along. Ethiopian DNA doesn't merely tell the story of Africa. It rewrites the entire human saga. Every human outside Africa carries about 2% Neanderthal DNA, a relic of an encounter between our ancestors and Neanderthals roughly 60,000 years ago. Europeans carry Neanderthal traces, Asians carry Denisovan DNA, but Ethiopians hold something rarer. Their genomes preserve remnants of ghost populations, ancient humans who left no bones, no tools, only genetic whispers still present in living cells. The Ethiopian highlands weren't just the cradle of humanity, they were a repeated gathering point. Over tens of thousands of years, waves of humans returned, intermingling and creating unique genetic combinations found nowhere else on Earth. What you're about to hear will challenge everything from archaeology to ancient texts. Because Ethiopian DNA is not just unique, it is, in many ways, inexplicable. Lucy, who lived 3.2 million years ago in Ethiopia's Afar Depression, was just the beginning of the story. In 2022, scientists analyzing the genomes of people still living in her homeland discovered sequences diverging from other humans as far back as 300,000 years ago, long before our species was thought to exist. The Afar carry humanity's oldest Y-chromosome lineage, AO. They are not just descendants, they are living archives of a parallel branch of our species. In 2019, computational biologist Dr. Pontus Skogland discovered something extraordinary. Ethiopians carry 4 to 7% ancestry from a ghost population. An archaic human group split from our lineage 500,000 years ago, vanished, and then reappeared to mix with modern humans in Ethiopia. There are no fossils, no archaeological sites. These people exist only in genetic echoes, traces left behind like fingerprints at a crime scene. Modern Ethiopians descend from the Omo humans, but also from this mysterious other lineage. Dr. Sarah Tishkoff's team found that a single Ethiopian village can contain more genetic diversity than all of Europe. Patterns suggest multiple human species converged on Ethiopia over hundreds of thousands of years. Even the Denisovan story twists here. In 2018, researchers identified Denisovan DNA in Ethiopian populations, despite Denisovans being thought to have remained in Asia. A previously unknown African branch had survived, hidden in Ethiopian bloodlines. Ethiopia's herdofossils, 160,000 years old, had brains larger than modern humans. When reconstructed, their features are reflected today in certain Ethiopian groups, linking living populations to a nearly lost human lineage. The out-of-Africa theory proposes a single exit around 70,000 years ago. Ethiopian DNA tells a more complex story, multiple migrations out of, and back into, Africa. People who left returned, bringing new genes, creating loops of migration with Ethiopia at the center. Language reflects this history. The Gurage people speak Semitic languages older than Arabic influence. Linguists call them linguistic fossils. DNA confirms the migration, showing that 50% of Gurage ancestry is Eurasian, arriving 3,000 years ago in one major wave, matching the linguistic shift. Words and genes traveled together. Adaptation is another story. Ethiopian highlanders thrive at 3,000 meters, where oxygen is 40% thinner than at sea level. Tibetans took millennia to adapt to similar heights, but Ethiopians evolved faster, improving oxygen transport at the cellular level rather than increasing red blood cells or lung size. The BCLH41 gene mutation, unique to Ethiopians, spread through the population in just 5,000 years, a natural selection sprint. Medical genetics is equally remarkable. Ethiopians carry a version of the APOL1 gene that protects against sleeping sickness, a major African disease. Normally, This mutation increases kidney disease risk, but Ethiopians carry a second mutation that cancels the harm. Two perfectly paired mutations, a natural precision almost too perfect to be random. Even the Beta Israel, Ethiopian Jews, preserve an astonishing genetic record. Though living in isolation for millennia, they carry DNA markers tracing to ancient Middle Eastern populations, long predating the Roman destruction of the Temple or the Babylonian exile. Their genes mirror theoretical reconstructions of ancient Israelite DNA. Ethiopia's religious diversity created natural genetic time capsules. Christian populations in the highlands preserved ancient lineages extinct elsewhere. Muslim groups along trade routes preserve medieval Arab DNA. Yet, all Ethiopian populations share a common genetic signature from 3,000 years ago, coinciding with the rise of the Aksumite civilization, when Eurasian DNA poured into Africa on an unprecedented scale. Trade routes fueled this diversity. The incense trade brought genes alongside goods. Ethiopia absorbed these waves rather than replacing populations. DNA from Africa, Asia, and Europe layered over centuries, creating unique combinations. High-altitude adaptations fused with desert survival genes. Mediterranean immunity fused with African disease resistance. Modern Ethiopians carry a genetic library of human history. They have accumulated defenses against malaria, sleeping sickness, tuberculosis, and smallpox, protections from multiple continents. This explains why Ethiopia survived epidemics that devastated other regions. Even COVID-19 revealed ancient genetic foresight. Certain Ethiopian populations showed resistance not to infection, but to severe disease. Variants in ACE2 receptors, the doorway the virus uses to enter cells, predate recorded history, as if Ethiopian DNA had been preparing for pandemics for millennia. Beyond health, Ethiopian DNA holds clues to human potential. Long-distance runners carry unique combinations affecting oxygen processing, muscle composition, and energy metabolism. Cognitive and neurological genes show unusual variants, correlating with heightened pattern recognition, language, and musical ability. Ethiopia is a living laboratory of human evolution. The Ethiopian Genetic Diversity Project, sequencing 100,000 genomes, has revealed DNA segments entirely missing from the standard human reference genome. These include genes linked to brain development, immunity, and metabolism, keys to understanding our species. From Lucy to modern marathoners, from Beta Israel to Harari merchants, Ethiopian DNA preserves the full human story, not as fossils, but as living potential. Ghost populations, impossible genetic combinations, disease resistance from multiple continents, and cognitive variations all coexist here. Ethiopia is more than the birthplace of humanity, it is where humanity keeps evolving. Each Ethiopian carries multitudes, ancestors from 3 continents, adaptations to dozens of environments, and solutions to challenges we have yet to face. The question isn't what Ethiopian DNA tells us about the past, it's what it reveals about the future. If 3,000 years of mixing created such genetic innovation, what will the next 3,000 bring? Could humanity itself become like Ethiopians, carrying the best of every lineage? Ethiopia is not just a story of history. It is a story of potential. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe our channel.